Hey guys, Ed here from Sparked Innovations. I have one of our portable display boards with some of our products on it. We have our switches and voltmeters. We have the illuminated switch panel. We have Fanny, but of course we have the RBX-4CH relay box. Today I want to focus on the RBX-4CH relay box. Okay, so for some of the basics here, our relay box is comprised of four 20 amp relays. Each has an individual positive input trigger and thus an individual positive output. Now, unlike a traditional relay, we've solved some of the wiring issues, the know-how and the messiness of traditional relays by fully integrating all the features into a PCB. This includes fused outputs. We fuse at 15 amps. We put on a status LED that will tell you when each individual channel is activated. On the input side, we have diode isolation. We have diode isolation on the output where the LED is. So we have multi-levels of protection and integration. Now the input can accept any positive trigger. So any switch you want to wire in line from a positive source, or if you want to use a positive trigger from a head unit, which is called remote turn on, or the ignition from your ignition switch of the vehicle, or a dome light, or anything that's positive will trigger the input here. Now you'll see that we have 4-pin plugs on the input side. What these allow us to do is offer you an integrated cable that goes to the switches that we also offer. All the wiring to illuminate the switch and activate the channel is integrated into that cable, so no additional wiring is necessary. Simply plug it into the back of the switch and plug the other end into the input side of the relay box. And now you can activate each channel that you have a switch plugged into. So there's an additional way to trigger each channel. If you do not want to use an external trigger or one of our switches, you can use the onboard switches. These are great for troubleshooting. If you have your switch panel mounted in the front and you did not want to reach the front of the vehicle, you want to do your troubleshooting in the back where the base unit is mounted. Or if you simply want to turn on LEDs or cooling fans that are only mounted in the back and only used during a show, you can simply flip the onboard switch and the channel will activate just the same. So on our display board, you'll see everything labeled. We have our inputs and outputs. However, there's an ignition switch on the board also. Right now, this does nothing. However, we have an option on the relay box to allow for an ignition override. If you did not want to be able to activate all the switches while the vehicle is off, in case you leave one on accidentally when you exit the vehicle, you can activate the ignition override and wire up a separate positive trigger from your ignition switch or a master switch into an ignition terminal. You flip the switch to ignition mode, and now nothing will activate unless you have the car on or the master switch activated. So let's talk about some of the problems this solves. One is you're told you need a relay, however, you don't know how to wire one up. Well, we got you. Everything's integrated here. Connection is easy. We have a positive terminal that accepts 4 8-gauge and goes directly to your battery or to your main distribution or fuse block. There's also a 4-gauge or 8-gauge input for ground, and that can go to your ground or to the negative terminal of a battery. If you're using our switches, they plug directly in with cables we offer. If you're using external triggers or switches, there's terminals here that accept any positive trigger. On the output side, we have the same kind of terminals, a screw down terminal that will go to the positive output of any accessory, say like a fan or an amplifier. There's also a pass-through of the constant power coming directly from the power input that is fused and protected. So for DSPs that may need memory or constant, you have it here. If you have an item like a fan here that needs ground, we have a ground tap here that also comes directly from the ground terminal. So installation is easy, clean, and neat. Now, another thing you might not know how to do is wire up a master ignition switch or a switch to illuminate when you activate it. Well, all that is, yes, you said it, integrated into the cables and the relay box itself. So it'll do it automatically when you use one of our switches and plug it in with one of our cables. And then you have the capability through one terminal to have an ignition master switch. Okay, another problem this solves is if you want multiple accessories to be controlled individually. So let's say you have a subwoofer amplifier and 4-channel amplifier. Well, you can have them on 2 different channels and control them individually from 2 different switches. And you can even have zones, say highs and lows on 2 different switches, and one switch controlling one channel can control multiple amplifiers. If you have 12 subwoofer amplifiers, you can control them all from one switch because of the current capacity of the relay. Now, another thing you can use that for is, say, putting on LEDs or cooling fans on your subwoofer amplifier. If you have the remote turn on or switch activate that subwoofer channel, you can also link the channel through a jumper that we give you. You can link that channel to another, which can control cooling fans or LEDs or something of that nature. Okay, so you may be a DIYer. You know how to wire up relays and whatnot. This is just another tool to allow you to do it quicker, easier, and cleaner without having to put in as much time and effort, so you can go on to more important things in the install. This becomes a hub in any install where once installed, now you have a small wire ground post, a small wire and fused and protected constant positive post, so you don't have to go and find other wires, run wire, strip wire, tap into wire somewhere else, find another ground, get another screw. You have it available here, and you also have your switched outputs available whenever you need them. And like I said, they're all fused and everything's integrated in a clean, tight, small package ready to go whenever you need it. You can also change the illumination to whatever your install calls for with our RGB switch up here. So you want a good looking install, you're almost ready to go with our RBX-4CH relay box from Sparked Innovations.